My name is Dominique Alonga. I am the founder of Imagine Me Publishers, the leading publishing house in Rwanda. So I wrote Tracing the Cracks, which follows two young people, post-genocide generation, who meet at a cafe, and one falls in love with the other. They don't know their stories until they come to learn that one is a child of a victim of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, and the other is the son of a perpetrator. So the story really follows their reconciliation process, asking really, really hard questions to each other and figuring out if they're even ready to forgive. The story does not have an end because we are still observing that it's very, very hard to forgive, but there is the willingness. The younger generation is curious to know, can I know about my parents' trauma, my parents' history, both on the side of the perpetrator and the side of the victim? It is a very tough question, and it is a very tough life to live, especially in the current circumstances that we have now. It's 32 years since the genocide has happened, but we are still willing to explore what does the next generation has to do to heal. So that's what the story was exploring. It does not have an ending because the ending is the reader's definition, is the country's definitions. So me writing that book, I think the main theme and the main goal for me was to start a conversation, to get young people to not be so afraid of a topic that they don't talk about it. So now that we are talking about it, we will discover healing from the conversations we have with our parents, with our loved ones, with our community at large. And one thing that we've noticed, because we've worked with several survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, is the more you talk, the more you heal, the more your brain is able to process what happened to you. And the more children ask their parents, the more the parents heal as well. So one of the goals I had is to really give interesting questions to young people to go back to their parents and their families to see what happened to us as a country, as a family, as an individual as well, and how can we heal. It's very tough. It's still incredibly fresh. The youngest person who was born in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi today is 32 years old. It's still incredibly fresh, but we take baby steps into forgiveness, into reconciliation and healing. Well, this book was very, very hard to write. I wrote it in 2021, I believe, and it was during, we had a curfew, so we had very few hours in the day. Every time we would go home, I would start writing. The hardest thing was for me to also start wondering what happened to my family. And to try to find a way that is not super heavy for people to read, to write it in a way that carries the emotional meaning without traumatizing the readers. So that was very hard. And the other hard thing was also, how do I put a perpetrator's child with a survivor's child? That's something that even for me, I was struggling to reconcile. And it made me ask questions to myself. How is your own forgiveness journey if you're struggling? So writing that, it made me think about young people who are still having to visit their parents in jail where they're serving a sentence. The parents' sin is not their own sin, but they carry it. So I started really being very interested in our history from all the side of how it's affecting us as a community. And that was very interesting. The other one was, how will people receive it? There was a lot of backlash. A lot of people felt angry that, we were putting two extreme victims together, right? This child whose parent was killed is being put in the same story of a child whose parent killed. How do you do that? A lot of people did not receive it very well, but the people who received it well started talking about their own healing journey and their own separation from a parent's sin to their child It was a very interesting journey that I honor with my whole heart. I can't believe that happened, honestly. We have a lot of deniers who are still rising and still having a big voice. The more young people carry the genocide against the Tutsi, the more they understand what actually happened. One, we will stop minimizing what happened. It's a terrific, horrible event that should not be minimized. And this is the generation that will carry that story forward. This is something that we cannot forget. And number two, I believe that as storytellers, professionally, and writers, illustrators, we are all using our skills, our talents, to preserve these stories. There are lots of survivor stories that need to be documented. There's lots of stories that just need to stay alive. And I'm very honored and privileged to know and to share that a book is one of the best ways to preserve history and culture. We worked on 30 years, 30 stories. It's another book that we worked on where we interviewed survivors, institutions, and perpetrators and different organizations. We had the great honor of interviewing Bank of Kigali and asking, how does a bank survive a genocide? Did they get looted? What happened? How do you rebuild? What happens to the victim's bank account when they come? You know, just really curious to see what do all of these different areas of society come back together. And of course, we interviewed wonderful people such as Inwari, who leads our past. How does he mobilize the Generation Z, Gen Z, to be interested in commemoration? And he does it brilliantly. We interviewed artists such as Uwamahoro Malaika, different people who have different roles. We interviewed parliamentarians, we interviewed a wonderful human being, Policy Denis, who really took us even all the way back to the 70s, the 50s, and gave us the beginning of the history. So putting out a book like that in partnership with the Kigali Genocide Memorial was really, really good. We interviewed a bunch of people. We interviewed perpetrators who have been forgiven and have been reset back into society. How is it to go back into society? Why did you do what you did? So we really have been doing quite a lot of work to contribute in the preservation of our history. And we hope to continue, of course, because this is something that is part of us and we will not run away from it. The way I see the work that Imagine is doing for Rwanda in the long term is, number one, is creating a platform for healing. We know for a fact, this is research, psychologists say that anyone who shares the story, they start the process of healing because they externalize what's in their mind. So we are providing a platform where they can write their stories and heal from that. And when we send back in society people who have begun their healing journey, the trauma hopefully does not get passed to the next generation. Because when you study, again, I really got very passionate about this topic. When you study epigenetics, people have learned that survivors, their DNA is transformed and they can send it to their children and their children to their children. So hopefully the more we encourage people to talk about their stories and to begin their own healing journey, hopefully the trauma is not passed to the next generation. And also giving tools to the younger generation to talk and to be curious. What happened to my mom? Where is my grandfather? Why don't I have uncles? What is happening? The more they understand what happened, the more they will not really be caught into the horrors in their own minds. So we're not doing much, really. I hope I wish we could do more. But the one thing that we have, I guess, build is to create a platform for storytelling. And we are really, really excited that storytelling does create confirmed healing for people and good conversations and preserving our memory for all eternity, I guess. So that's it.